I'm sitting in the garden here with Fee. Hi, Fee.
Hey.
And we're here, so the second subject, my first subject was the menopause, and actually Fee called me from France, because that's where Fee lives now, and said, thanks, Soph, it really helped, because we're both going through that. And then she said, what are you up to? What are you doing? And I said, well, funny enough, my next subject that I really want to tackle and talk about is anxiety. And she went, oh, now you're talking, anxiety. And then started to talk to me about anxiety and her experiences of anxiety through firstly being a mum to two beautiful teenage children, but secondly being a teacher.
Yeah.
And working with children from the ages of 10 to 18.
Yeah.
And through experience and watching children has, I believe, learnt quite a lot about anxiety and what it is, and through experience how we can maybe help people and children. And she started speaking, and it was so moving to me listening to Fee speak that I said, you have got to come to me and we've got to film this so we can put it out there and you can help people, because it does help people. Because the reason I want to speak about anxiety is because I have felt it through my life. Not only that, people in my life to varying degrees have suffered from it, some so crippling that they've had to take themselves away from everything they were doing and basically hide, and have had a terrible time. So we're here in the garden. Fee's made it from the south of France to speak. So welcome, darling.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you for making the effort.
No, I'm so delighted to be here. I think it's just such an important subject that we should be talking about, because we've all been through it, and anybody who tells you that they've never been anxious, I think is probably kidding themselves. It is, we have to make sure that we delineate anxiety from fear.
Yeah, so yes, go on, tell me about that.
Well, anxiety, as I perceive it and as I've experienced it, is very much a feeling that you get inside based on something that might happen, not necessarily has happened, but in your head you can build it up to be something so much more, and then that becomes in your head a reality. And once that becomes your own reality, it can take over.
Yeah, it's the most uncomfortable feeling, isn't it, when it steps from you're in control of it to it's like an out of body experience, and it's gone, and you're like, how do I bring myself back?
I remember
so uncomfortable.
I remember my father when he was teaching me how to drive a long time ago, and I was a little bit nervous going up a hill, and he just said to me, put your shoulders down and relax your tummy and breathe. And it sounds like a very, very basic thing to do, but actually breathing through massive anxiety, knowing how to breathe properly, is something that ironically we all think, well, we're all born to breathe. We know how to breathe. Everybody knows how to breathe. Actually, we don't. A lot of people don't know how to breathe effectively.
Yeah.
And when we don't breathe effectively, we find an enormous build-up. We end up being very here and tight, and all of that angst sort of then builds up in your physical body, and you realise that your shoulders are up here,
and your
neck's tight, and actually if you just let yourself go, even if it doesn't have an instant effect on your brain, actually physically it is a massive relief. And the minute that you allow yourself to just stop and recognise that, then you might just have a chance of being able to
bring it back.
Just bring it back and figure out what is making you anxious in the first place. Fear is something else. Fear is something that is a threat that we have it's a reaction to a threat, and a real threat. But anxiety is prevalent everywhere, and if we don't talk about it more, and if we don't really allow ourselves to say to each other, actually, it's okay.
Yeah.
We have got
Shoulders
this.
back.
We can just have a little bit of time to breathe and just figure out what is making us anxious. Then
I love
then we
when
can
you
do
said
something
that
about
in
it.
your classroom you start every day with saying,
Well,
Do it now.
I'm in a really privileged position because I teach in a tennis academy. So the kids that I teach, it's very intensive. In the morning, we have lessons from 8 till 12:30, and they're hour and a half lessons. So it's there's a lot going on. And the first thing in the morning at 8 o'clock, it's a very difficult thing to get kids to focus. They don't want to be there. Nobody wants to be there at 8 o'clock. That's your goal, that's your objective, that's what you'll come out of the classroom in an hour and a half having learned. The first thing they want to do is throw their bags down and go, oh God,
Yeah.
So actually, I thought, well, why not? If that's really their actual physical reaction to being in a classroom, then why not buy into that and just ask them to ground themselves just for 3 minutes? So I asked them to do exactly that. Put their hands on the table, back straight up, and put their feet on the ground, and breathe up through their boots and just relax. And just speaking very gently to them and allowing them that 3 minutes to wake up, to be present, and allowing them that 3 minutes where they don't have to get the books out, get the pencil case out, get the agendas out, understand what they're supposed to be doing. It allows them to just recalibrate, just to have that peace just for 3 minutes.
I mean, the moment, I have to say, every classroom should do this, because the moment you put your feet flat on the floor,
it's grounding, isn't it?
Really,
it's grounding.
really, yeah.
It's grounding.
And you go and you just go
right up through. I mean, it really
take the air in.
really is grounding, because the whole point about maximising your breathing, that the oxygen that we are producing, 20% of that that we use for our brain function could be so squeezed and so mitigated if we don't actually if we don't maximise what we've got when we start off doing an activity. How can we then throw ourselves with all our energy and all of our open mind and consciousness? We can't concentrate. It's a proven fact. We can't concentrate for more than 40 minutes at a time. So if I have an hour and a half of children in class, I can't expect them to be on it.
No.
For that amount of time. So
But
just allowing
that is just,
and letting them know that
and that
that's
does
okay.
help. So that does help, doesn't it? If you can take your breath and before it escalates to going over the edge of, I'm feeling really uncomfortable.
I mean,
now.
maybe I should say that I teach English, so English literature, we know it's not an easy subject, but actually you can have an enormous amount of fun with whatever you're teaching. It doesn't matter whatever subject you're teaching. But what you can't do is reach a child if they are anxious.
No.
Or if you take the fear out of learning, and if you take the fear and the anxiety-ridden, I'm never going to get this because I don't know the right words and I don't know how to put that into an essay. If you take that out and allow a child to just recognise that there's nothing scary about it.
No.
And that they have the time to progress.
And also, as somebody said to me just this week, actually, there is nothing wrong with failing.
No.
Kids, there's nothing wrong with failing. In fact, you learn your most. Life is about making mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
Because they, people have a lot of pressure.
That's why we're here today.
We are. People have a lot of pressure, don't they?
Yeah.
When they think you've got to pass everything, excel everything, be brilliant at everything. That's too much pressure. Failure is how we learn.
We all learn at different stages. That's really very important.
Yeah.
You know, every single person learns at a different pace, and every single person, while that is, you know, in different structures, people who are more slow to pick up key ideas are left by the wayside. But the whole point is that if you come into a classroom and you are allowed to learn, if you're put into an environment where you feel safe to learn, then there's going to be a bigger chance that you're going to be more open-minded, and you'll have more energy for it. You'll have more enthusiasm to open your mind.
Obviously, you're not closed off, are you?
Yeah.